Chad, there are those at ESPN who have the stick to sports mandate and those who have editorial control over their content. Pat McAfee certainly has that. So does Dana White, the president of the UFC, who that they control all of their broadcast and the production of what they do. And no one's going to tell either one of them what they can or cannot say, including thoughts on former President Donald Trump.
And that'll obviously span into a conversation about a great friend of yours. Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler shared a tweet in a bond over a feeling of the things that took place in Butler, Pennsylvania, whenever President Trump was shot at by a sniper who's 20 years old from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. Michael Chandler said, "We stand united on this one," where Conor McGregor said, "This billionaire could be doing anything. Instead, he's eating bullets right now trying to run for president." And then Conor McGregor replied to Michael Chandler. He said, "I talked to Dana today about our new date. All looking good. 24 for sure." Now, obviously, the history between Conor and Chandler is very long, and people have been waiting for this fight for a long time. Is this tweet accurate? And what are your thoughts on the buzz that this fight still has? Has to be a good thing.
Yeah, so, I'm in Italy right now, and I was flying over here, and I was sleeping on the plane, and my wife woke me up and told me that somebody shot President Trump. And, obviously, very, very close, good friends of mine. So I started freaking out, and I grabbed my phone. I had like 350 text messages. So I was just trying to figure out what was going on with him. And then Conor was one of the guys that reached out to me about him. Obviously his support and, taking a shot at the president. Some of the things that are being said, it's like, this is a former president and a candidate. I mean, imagine if somebody took a shot at Biden or Obama or Clinton. It's like, this is our president. It's, you know what I mean? If it happened to anybody, any of our presidents, every American on earth should be horrified by this and disgusted and upset and angry. What is the question you asked me about the fight?
No, it was an attack on the United States for sure. That's how you have to feel about it. And I think a lot of people did. And I think almost more unification than I could have imagined afterwards, with how everybody kind of was like, this is bullshit. Not everybody. Obviously, there's going to be people that aren't. But with that came the conversation of Conor and Chandler. And we'll definitely talk more about you and President Trump and everything like that.
So this went on for roughly 5 minutes, where they go back and forth and discuss of course, the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. But it's something that we're not used to hearing on ESPN Airwaves, especially over the years with Jamel Hill or Jalen Rose, Sarah Spain. You've got Elle Duncan. You can keep going with all of this. And Awful Announcing pointed out it was kind of a double take for them on they're actually discussing Donald Trump in a positive light on ESPN. Well, they're certainly doing that with Pat McAfee and Dana, and they're not going to tell them what they can or can't say, even on a stick-to-sports mandate from the company. Moving into that ability, McAfee, we know, can call out his bosses. He doesn't even refer to them as bosses, for that matter. Dana, well, he's in that level where he was paid whenever they sold the UFC, but he still loves what he's doing, and no one's going to tell him how to go about doing it. And he spoke to that.
That people who know me really well know me. First of all, I'm nobody's puppet. Nobody tells me what to say. Nobody tells me what to do, ever.
Hell yeah.
The narrative that is put out there about Donald Trump is completely false, absolutely disgusting. This guy loves this country so much, and every American in this country. He loves every American. And like Conor said, this guy he loves to golf. He could be golfing every day. He could be on a boat right over here next to me, doing whatever he's doing. This guy is literally fighting for this country and for every American in it. He's one of the greatest human beings I've ever met. And after the other day, man, I told him, I said, you are the ultimate badass, man. Think about people that have been put in positions like this. A sniper tried to kill him and by a millimeter missed blowing his head off. And you saw the reaction he had. Everybody thinks they're tough till the shit hits the fan. That guy is legit.
So is Dana, and so is Pat McAfee. And Dana White will introduce, I believe, he's scheduled to introduce Donald Trump on Thursday at the Republican National Convention.
When he closes out the convention with his speech.
Yes. Chad, everything he's saying there is in reaction to how we know Dana is going to be pro-Trump. But my biggest takeaway from the last 24 hours of coverage is it's still one side or the other on the rhetoric more than the event and the crisis of an assassination attempt. It's more, to me, about whether or not you're on the side of, have you called him Hitler or not? That's really the talking point. And it's bizarre to just listen to the keywords where the narrative is still being pushed, even though they're not directly saying it. Where on one side they're saying, well, we never said this. On the other, you're playing clips of it again. And it's just back and forth instead of, where we are in the country.
Well, and some of those that have been the most charged with the rhetoric about Donald Trump being some evil genius type person that's set to destroy the world, they've been silenced. I've seen a lot of Hutton where I'm looking for some people to react to this the way they've talked about former President Trump, and they're not saying anything right now, and probably smartly not saying anything right now, depending on what some could say.
Yeah, right.
Morning Joe on MSNBC, they're not allowed to go on Monday.
They do the show with the biggest
morning, highest rated morning news talk show going. They're not allowed to go on. Joe Scarborough goes on a show today and says, I don't know why we weren't on. We were told that the entire network was going to go wall-to-wall NBC feed coverage, breaking news, and that wasn't the case. They did something different during our time slot. We haven't been told why, and we wish we could have been on one of the biggest news days going. So, and to my knowledge, I haven't read about anything completely inflammatory they said today about it, on their show. So the thought was,
that was the worry, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, now they're going to go and say something really dumb that's going to get our network in trouble or them in trouble. But that wasn't the case. But Hutton, you're right in that once again, it's been the reaction to the reaction.
Yeah.
Is what we've gone down the line with now. Everyone kind of in their separate corner saying, oh, well, you said this, stick to it. Oh, no, don't say that you're happy he's alive. Don't say that you've said this, this, and this, so how do you really feel? And then a lot of I told you so from other people about if you continue to talk this way, this is what's going to happen. If we're really going to cool the temperature in this, I saw something released by a Biden advisor yesterday. That's right back to the, we're happy he's alive, but he is a threat to democracy. Remember that. He's a threat to all of you. And I'm thinking, well, we're not really cooling the room down with that. How is Donald Trump going to respond on Thursday night when he speaks? He's talked about needing to get away from some of the rhetoric in this election and cool it down a bit. Is he going to follow that path come Thursday?
And his family members are saying it should be more towards what you're saying there.
Yeah. And on the ESPN part of it, I've read the awful announcing story, which they're always quick to go back to. Some will claim that ESPN is a liberal organization, but here they are allowing Dana White to praise. Well, they're allowing, as Hutton said, they're allowing Pat McAfee to do whatever the hell he wants with his show. And we know, as Dana White said, he'll do whatever the hell he wants at any time and say whatever he wants.
Who also has a contract with the UFC with ESPN.
Right. But it doesn't change the fact that ESPN is a very liberal organization in their recent history. And because it turned so many people off, the bosses at ESPN and Disney had to say, cool it, L. Duncan. We don't need moments of silence. Impromptu, or you going on a political rant on a WNBA show out of nowhere that without us knowing about it. My producers don't know about this, but now I must speak on something. That stuff is ended at ESPN, but Pat McAfee with editorial control can do whatever he wants. And Dana White's going to say whatever he wants. And everything Dana White said, there's nothing completely inflammatory or incendiary there. I listen to that Hutton and think, what Donald Trump did is really badass. He's right.
It is.
I mean, I don't know if I responded that way, having an assassination attempt on my life, my ear bleeding, getting shot in the ear, and standing up and doing that. The closest presidential example I can think of is Teddy Roosevelt getting shot on his way to a speech in Milwaukee, and his metal glass cases softening the shot and going up, and before he passed out or went to the doctor, delivering a speech for 20 or 30 minutes or however long it was. That's pretty badass. And that's where Donald Trump is right now, in that level of badass category.
Yep. And Chad, the other
Whether anyone likes it or not, it's the truth.
the other part. Well, I don't think anybody can deny that.
No.
Period, with what we saw. The other part of the last 24 for me is the whole timeline of how this played out. And I believe it was CNN who had this. They went back and they had someone go through the exact timeline based on accounts and posts and videos, recordings of the shooter on top of the roof, climbing up there, all that, knowing that they had information where the local authorities were getting information to the Secret Service saying that they were tracing this guy, keeping an eye on this guy. All of that is extremely worrisome on how it was handled. Knowing that they had eyes on him, they go up the ladder, and I mean, anyone that has a rifle turned to them is going to duck beneath the roof line there. But you also have that was one of the hubs for the local authorities, was in that building.
Yeah, he's crawling on a metal roof above the heads of local authorities.
Yeah.
They had their hub set up in that building that he was on top of, and no one heard it or thought anything of it. The preliminary reporting on it is not encouraging. I really hope that this independent investigation that's going on, I don't want just a brief issued or here's the summary of it. I'd love a press conference that details everything about that day, what happened, timeline, how everything was handled, and a clear explanation to the American public about what happened. Just transparency, right? I'm not looking for anyone to be unfairly thrown under the bus or any of that.
Right, yeah.
But I just want to know, how can we correct this moving forward? And what exactly happened? Where was everyone? The whole timeline, not just news reports on it,
right,
but the investigation coming forward with all the details on this.
The White House has said that we will get that. We'll see. Right? We'll see. And then you hear that the Secret Service had increased Trump's security recently over information of an Iranian assassination plot. That's a headline today at Fox News. And the other bizarre fact is how little we know about Crooks.
Yeah, nothing getting released from his phone.
Nothing on his phone? No, they said they haven't found anything. Just initially. You would think there would be something there.
Hutton, have you even seen an interview with like a high school classmate of his or anything yet?
There is something out now on a high school classmate.
Okay. Because usually you immediately go to a family member or someone who taught him, coached him, grew up with him, something, and they're going to speak.
Well, their former classmate said in Pennsylvania recently that the quote was, "None of my friends can fathom that a dude we knew would try and kill Trump." And some have said that they liked the guy in school. He was just kind of he's quiet to him, kept himself, but whatever. Yeah, I mean, nothing out of the ordinary, I guess.
It's always, I feel like, that description when something goes terribly awry, right?
Yeah,
well, it's a good neighbor, didn't really hear much from him, kind of a quiet kid, quiet to be around, always sort of cordial.
But then there's other
accounts.
There are other accounts of the opposite, like you just kind of
we saw this coming type thing.
Yeah,
there was some erratic behavior.
Yeah. Again,
I want to know more about him. I want to know more about this independent investigation and get some answers on how this happened and how it all went down. And we're going to get that in the coming days. What one would hope. So, the Secret Service and whoever can correct whatever went wrong. But ultimately, you pointed this out yesterday, Hutton, thank God the man's alive.
Yeah, man.
And that we're not talking about the other side of this story with a lot of scrambling going on.
I don't know what America's like today.
Think about the Republican convention going on this week.
Well, just think about
trying to figure out who the nominee is going to be, all that stuff.
Where you live, what it's like.
Yeah.
How it directly is impacting just when you look outside your door or drive down the street. I don't know what that would look like, honestly.
I mean, there were riots when Martin Luther King Jr. was killed. There was some activity when, obviously, JFK was killed, a very sad day in American history. There weren't a lot of people, doing backflips over that or anything. America united in sadness at that point in time. You don't want to see a repeat of that.
Well, and
a political murder to that level to where bad things can happen in the aftermath.
It took a slight turn by Trump's head to the right to keep that from the reaction that we would all fear to, we need to tone down the rhetoric.
Yeah.
And we'll see if that happens. Some of it is campaign, fodder, but that can go too far, on both sides.
And I'm watching, clips of the Lester Holt.
I know, man.
Joe Biden interview. I mean.
About the bullseye?
It's so, we've passed the point of, man, they can just get him ready for this big moment that's kind of contained with one person interviewing him and have all of his ducks in a row, and he can stick to the talking points and say the right things. And he can't do that. You cannot put him out there and trust him to say the right thing about anything. He called the female head of the Secret Service a him, and Lester Holt had to correct him. You mean you haven't talked to her? Or you have talked to her? It's just, when reporters are having to fill in the blanks for the sitting president of the United States, it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah, it's not going to get better.
No.
It won't. Chad, analysis of college football and the NFL is getting better. I mentioned whenever he took the job, I said Tom Brady's going to crush it.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Saban's now with College Game Day and ESPN, and he's at SEC Media Days. What's been your takeaway from what you've heard from Saban?
He's been outstanding. He's been way more candid than I expected. He's not picked Alabama to go to the SEC championship game, that's one good sign for me.
It was Georgia and Texas, right?
Yeah, he even said, he called it out. He said, they're going to have a difficult time getting buy-in from the secondary, is what he said about Alabama. And, of course, Trey Wallace told us about this, but the secondary is the unit he coached specifically throughout his time there. So I love the honesty. He's showing a sense of humor that he didn't often show as coach at Alabama. He has immediately become the voice of college football. Whenever a big scandal happens, whenever a coach is fired, whenever there's a playoff race to talk about and we're debating over certain teams that should get in or shouldn't, everything Nick Saban says will be covered by sports media because it's that impactful. This is like if you could have taken Newt Rockne back in the day and had the television medium right after he retired or left the game to go on television and talk to America about the sport. How awesome that would have been. I mean, we're looking at a living monument, right? This is the greatest coach in the history of college football that is still healthy, that still has his wits about him, for sure. And he's going to be on our television screens all the time talking about the game. It's a huge win for all of us. He's done a great job already. Doesn't surprise me. I think it's only going to get better with his coverage on College Game Day. And Hutton, the flip side of that coin is Tom Brady immediately becomes the voice of NFL football. When he chimes in on something, websites are going to cover it. People are going to talk about it. His opinion and his thoughts on every matter in the NFL will carry so much weight. So we've now entered into an era, I believe, where there are the two biggest voices in each college and the NFL that we're all going to be paying attention to, and they're starting at the same time with Nick Saban and Tom Brady.
And so is Bill Belichick.
Two GOATs.
And Belichick's doing the same thing.
Belichick's going to get some newsworthy comments also, and he'll be great as well. But I still put Brady ahead of him in that pecking order.
Well, I want Brady to be broad outside of just the game he's covering for that matter, for that fact that you're saying. Saban, and I've mentioned this whenever we're going through, who can be the commissioner of college football? And he's the de facto commissioner just based on the role that he has.
Right.
But he doesn't want to go down the path of being that person. He was asked directly about it. He says that, it's for coming up with a solution for where we are is for smarter people, lawyers is what he's recently.
He even mentioned Greg Sankey.
He mentioned Sankey. I hope that he at least put the toe in the water a little bit after he said that. What was this 6 or 7 months ago now? Feels like a long time. I want him to be blunt and honest. And he's mentioning the secondary. Didn't he kind of that whenever he got out of coaching? Because he's mentioning what players are wanting. Travaris Robinson, who's the secondary coach last year, there was some, back and forth on whether or not he was calling plays, whether or not he was going to be the defensive coordinator. He was offered that by DeBoer. He turned it down. Now he's at Georgia. went to Georgia, says staying that whole thing. There's something there. There's something to dig up on whatever Saban's referencing on the secondary.
And also think about now College Game Day transitioning from Lee Corso to Nick Saban. And Lee Corso is an institution, legend, big-time personality, all that. But when college coaches, every time they go on campus, sit down at the desk and they're interviewed by the coach on set, and that coach is Lee Corso, who most coaches, even coaching today, especially the younger ones, don't know a thing about Lee Corso and the job he did at Indiana or Louisville as the head coach. So while you can connect in certain ways, you can't really connect. Watching all of these SEC coaches go straight from the podium to the back of that ballroom to sit down next to the legend Nick Saban, someone that has just coached against Nick Saban in games, all of these men, is really cool to watch the interaction between Saban and the current SEC coaches. Now think about all the times you're going to get that on every game day stop where Saban's going to be able to talk to someone he knows from coaches' conventions. They've as competitors, but they know each other well, and the respect that will be paid to him, but also the good questions that will be asked by Nick Saban, I think is what we're seeing with all of this. Look, I was never his biggest fan as a coach, but I learned and grew to respect the man more than anything else for his accomplishments, for his process, for all those things that were cliche for years and years that he would talk about. I truly respect the process and everything about Nick Saban and his greatness as a coach. Now he gets to kind of share that with everyone while talking to others around the game and weighing in on modern issues freely, not holding back, not worrying about what Alabama's going to say or the SEC or anyone else.
We didn't even want to praise guys at the podium some weeks.
Yeah.
Would get on to the media for asking about a depth chart.
Right. Not worried about rat poison.
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything bad about the opponent. Right? Now he gets to say whatever he thinks about the opponent or whoever's playing that week. I think this is terrific.
I'd love to get his honest reaction to the way that Kirby Smart's handling things at Georgia. 24 arrests over the last 2 years. We've seen 4 this offseason, most recently with Bo Hughley and Smile Munden, and on separate reckless driving and racing charges. Chad, there was the report on Hughley, offensive lineman. His car struck a curb, ran up on the sidewalk, hit a speed limit sign, and it snapped it off the base of the pole, okay? And then it lost a tire, and he wound up back on the road after all of that. Police, this is through WSB TV in Atlanta. Police said that the wheel was found later in a nearby ditch. The officer said the wheel had not fallen off, but had been sheared off the frame of the vehicle. How about this? He got out of jail on bond. Would you like to guess the price, the amount of money of what the bond was set at? What he posted?
What the collective posted, you mean? Probably on his behalf. I don't know. I'm bad at guessing.
The collective wouldn't have to get involved with this. This is $26.
Oh my goodness.
Was his bond. But his fine, apparently he's going to be fined now, according to Kirby Smart. They're going to fine players behind the scenes through NIL and through the collective. They're going to take money away.
So Kirby Smart.
Is that in the contract? I'm just curious. Is that in the contract?
Kirby Smart said a lot of things about this. He did say this is embarrassing and we don't like it and guys are making bad decisions, but even went on, kind of took a shot at Mike Gundy saying, a lot of people don't suspend anyone for traffic violations or issues in a car, but we've suspended people. We kicked a guy off the team a year ago.
The staffer died.
And then he gets into his collective fining players.
Ridiculous. Yeah, so here, real quick, here is Kirby Smart when asked about this at SEC Media Days, about that fining players, but also just the driving problem in general, the speeding problem, the racing problem, and the culture that is clearly there within that football program.
Yeah, I think the number one thing is disappointed. Anytime you have a situation like that, you want your kids, your players, to make better decisions. And I always say you can't be outcome related, and I'm very disappointed in the outcomes, but I am very pleased with our process we've put in terms of education, driver safety, requiring defensive driving, education, talking about it, having leaders stand up and talk about it, bringing speakers in and talk about it, suspending players, dismissing players, which we've done. I don't know to this point any coach in college football that suspended a player for a driving citation. We have. And we've also dismissed players based on driving citations. Nobody's done that. So hopefully they get the idea and the information, but we have a really good locker room, and I feel really good about that. Like, I love the players we have. I love the locker room we have. We have good kids. We got 45 kids yesterday battling breast cancer golf tournament to raise money. So we got kids that go to Camp Sunshine, the entire team, and do a lot of good things, but not representative of what we want when they make mistakes like that.
So, I mean, I buy it. I don't think he wants this going on. I don't think it's like reckless to the point of don't look over your shoulder at what's going on here. I do think the programs are going on. But when he's saying, I don't know of any other program that suspended players or dismissed players, they have it, but I don't know of any other program that has this problem like they do in Athens. And for whatever they're doing, it's not enough. They're going to defensive driving classes. I mean, clearly they're not actually putting that into practice. They went on the green light.
When he's asking the rhetorical question, who else has kicked off a team for traffic violations? No one. Well, no one, Coach, has 24 violations in 2 years.
Right.
No one's, killing people on the road because of these issues. No one has the issues the level of Georgia. So, yeah, it should be extraordinary, the steps you're taking to end this. Of course, you should be kicking guys off the team for traffic violations, given the severity of one gigantic issue you had, and then the collection of all these other issues you had. It reminds me of Varsity Blues. John Voight as Bud Kilmer. He's in the cafe, and they're talking about all the antics that his football players are up to. And John Voight's, he got the coffee and the paper, and he's eating by himself breakfast, and he says, "My boy's too big of a problem for you guys." And they said, no, Coach, they're just kids. They're just kids. We got a good group of kids, good locker room here, good group. They're doing a golf fundraiser yesterday, 45. Nobody cares. Nobody cares when these things are happening. Like, I'm sure most of the players in your team are fine, upstanding young men. But when you have 24 incidents over 2 years, you're not doing enough. So being proud of your process isn't going to cut it for me. And I know that he doesn't want this to happen. I'm sure they've brought in speakers and implemented a driver service and driver's ed and all these different things. But here's the thing, Hutton, that really irks me about this. Do not brag to me if you are the head coach, the multi-million-dollar, two-time national champion head coach at the University of Georgia, about how your damn Classic City collective is taking it upon themselves to fine your players for misbehavior. That has nothing to do with you.
Where's that money going?
You don't get to have a victory lap for that. That's a great point. Is that the NFL goes to NFL charities when you find them. That must just go back into that probably goes to go recruit more players who will go Fast and the Furious when they get on Georgia's campus. Got to pay for those other five-star guys that are going to come on campus and race cars against each other. That's where the money goes to when it goes back to them. Quote, our Classic City collective for over a year has been substantially finding guys for those things. That's not something that's new. That's something that's been going on outside of my jurisdiction that they decided to implement. And they've done a considerable amount of money doing that to guys. Great. Bravo, Classic City Collective, for doing something more to curb this than Kirby Smart has. Kirby Smart even admitted these guys, it hurts them worse when you take their money.
Of course,
not when you take them away from a game for a half or suspend them for a game.
I mean, I believe that whenever the first game of the season is against, well, in this case, it's Clemson. But in most cases, it's against a directional school U.
Yeah.
And so if you're taking away from a half, what is that really doing?
Well, you want to send a message, take away Carson Beck's Lamborghini. If you want to send a message about what you're about. Because part of the problem here, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution wrote about this, is these guys are getting cars as part of them playing football at Georgia. And they're all getting really fast cars they can't handle.
Well, I hope that.
And they want to go race them.
Well, for all I know, I don't know if Beck is doing this or not.
No, but if you want to send a message to the rest of the team, punish the quarterback. whether he's done anything or not.
But then you have the collective that is being sponsored by this, right?
Well, there's mixed
weird
messaging here, okay?
But a lot. Hey,
Carson
keep this in
Beck
mind.
seems like a fine guy. He spoke today. He hasn't done any of this, okay?
It's the cars though. It's not from the local. It's a Ohio dealership. Remember this?
Yes. But Carson Beck, and he talked today, and it's very sad. And I lost someone in high school that was close to me in a car wreck. A lot of people I know died in car wrecks at a young age. Carson Beck said, my best friend growing up died at 16 years old. So I take this stuff very seriously, and it's very upsetting to me. Carson Beck has a Lamborghini provided to him, okay? I'm not saying Carson Beck's out there doing awful things on the road. To my knowledge, he's not. But there's some mixed messaging going on here to a Deion Sanders level in terms of contradictions with that.
Well, but you can receive and drive whatever you want to. It's not like they're going out in his Lamborghini and doing that. The other players have great cars too, because it's 5-star U right now at Georgia. They're all getting it.
Well, figure it out.
I know.
Or just pull the Mike Gundy and say, if they get arrested for it or somebody,
let me say this.
or God forbid somebody dies, then we'll let the authorities handle it. But until then, I've got a business to run.
I don't know.
So I'm not suspending anyone.
But see, to be fair to whatever's going on at Georgia, I don't know what Quinn Ewers drives, but I know that they were bragging about not buying in, or not trying to pay players, or not being about the dollar. And then they had all these cars lined up for their big recruiting day. So it's not just Georgia that's giving these fast
Anwar
cars.
Richardson talked to us about that.
Yeah, but it's that type of stuff happens everywhere.
It does, but not everywhere has 24 violations in 2 years. That's the point I'm making about Georgia. They need to go to even greater extents, like not hooking their players up with fast-moving vehicles.
But at some point,
take that money and give it to them if you want.
I will also say, at some point, it is on the individual more than the coach. You can only do so much when it's 2 a.m. or whatever time it is, and you're speeding, you're going around a car and flipping it off a curb, and you lose a tire, and whatever is going on, or you're racing off the green light. That's something that is more than just being in a locker room as a part of the culture of a football locker room. They're adding more. They're signing bills by the governor in Georgia across the state to try to crack down on this. Where it's a real issue, not just in Athens, but across the state, where you have others losing lives just because of the fast driving that's going on, swerving, missing, hitting cars, whatever, where they're trying to crank up the penalties. But the real thing is, outside of the program, dude got a $26 bond. He posted a $26 bond. I mean, can we go get three coffees right now?
Georgia problem.
Can we go get 3 coffees right now for $26?
Yeah, I don't buy that Kirby Smart is doing everything he can to stop this until there's one of two ways to go about it. There's the Gundy approach of, I'm not a molder of young men anymore, basically, is what he's admitting. I'm the head of a business. So I'm going to play him because he's one of our best players. And him admitting that, which, fine, at least that's honest. Kirby Smart's kind of going down the middle of the road here. If Kirby Smart got up there today and said, here's what I'm going to do. I don't care if it's Carson Beck, or it's Smile Munden again, or it's one of my best players that are going to be a first-round NFL pick. The next Georgia Bulldog player that gets arrested for reckless driving is off the team, and because my collective can find them, we're taking all their money back. Which, by the way, shocking that they can find them.
I know.
I
That's
thought
what I'm
once
saying.
they got the money that it was their money, and then they couldn't take it back.
Not even a part of a CBA.
But we're going to take all the money back. They're signing contracts with the collective as is. We're taking their money back, and they're kicked off the team. That's how serious I am about this as the head coach. That would deliver a message. But he's not willing to do that. Why? Because if Carson Beck got arrested for speeding, he's not kicking him off the team.
Right.
Because it's a business.
You just find him behind the scenes, and we're handling this internally. Whatever that means.
His Lamborghini gets parked in the garage for 2 weeks.
So does the booster get the money back, or is it just go
I really think it probably goes to the general fund to go get the number 1 recruiting class in the country next year. It just goes right back into this year's senior class.
But they find a way to give it back to the player. Well, good behavior.
Well, if they score a touchdown to beat Auburn, it might go right back to them.
So, man. Oh,
so we're going to take this back now. But if you finish undefeated, you all get the bonus back at the end of the year.
Ingrid Andress. Chad, I fully admit I have never heard of her until last night.
4-time Grammy nominated? I've never heard of this person in my life.
Again, maybe that is obvious based on our age. 4-time Grammy nominee with an awful rendition of the national anthem prior to the home run derby. She posted this, though, just prior to the show with a statement as to why it was so awful. I'm not going to BS y'all. I was drunk last night. I'm checking myself into a facility today to get the help that I need. That was not me last night. I apologize to MLB, all the fans in this country I love so much for that rendition. I'll let y'all know how rehab is. I hear it's super fun. XO, Ingrid.
I mean, I like the honesty.
Man,
and I hope she gets
so
the help that she needs.
Brutal. If it's right, it's. Would you put that worse than Fergie? Listen to the bit of this.
Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly.
What do you think, Chad? Because Fergie had the breathy. She was trying to make it all sexy that night. It was awful. The worst.
Carl Lewis had a bad one, but that was
Yeah.
just because he can't sing.
Well,
Roseanne Barr sang the national anthem
Roseanne
and
was
spit at the end
so
of it.
bad.
And she got booed the whole time.
Michael Bolton had it written on his hand. And, Ingrid is apparently.
That's fine. That's fine. Like
Yeah,
if you're worried about forgetting it.
But he couldn't get through it. He couldn't keep up with where he was on his hand.
Yeah, that's bad.
It's just.
That's tough. That's like me trying to find notes at times.
Yeah. What'd you say to begin the show, that when you hit rock bottom, people hit it differently?
Yeah, everybody just got to witness her rock bottom, which is sad. I mean, I do feel bad for her. I can't help but have empathy that America got to witness her hammered trying to sing the national anthem, and it was terrible. I was watching it at the time, Hutton. I had it on my television, and I didn't see the anthem, but I just glanced down, and everyone is reacting to how awful this anthem was. So I just rewound it on live TV and went back and played it, and the players are trying not to crack up. They're cutting away to the players, and they're like some of the notes she was trying to hit, you just see eyebrows being raised. Like, whoa, what was that? What is happening right now?
And that, if you're standing there, all the cameras are on you too to see if you laugh and crack up. But I mean, that was social media, including look at Tip of the Banana on social. Tough week to be an ear in America. That's a great one.
One of her top 100 Billboard Hot 100 song titles, Hutton, Wishful Drinking.
Really?
I'm looking at her bio right now.
Yeah.
Also has a song, More Hearts Than Mine.
Hopefully,
The Stranger in 2020.
Hopefully she's good to go whenever she gets out of the time away.
I think she should immediately take a national anthem gig to prove she's better, like whatever it is. I just also think that America witnessed you. They weren't watching the home run derby live, but then America goes back on social media and watches you.
Yeah.
All because you accepted the gig of national anthem singer for the home run derby.
But
not even the All-Star game.
But it's a difficult song, period.
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
I know.
you accept it, it's like, man, my manager said I should do this, and I did it, and I got too drunk beforehand.
Yeah.
And now my career is damaged forever, and my good name is damaged forever. For the national anthem singing gig at the home run derby,
you got to be able to crush that.
Should have held out for the All-Star game.